Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Sunoikisis's Digital Classics. Today we have our third session of this term, which is autumn 2022. And the session of today is about the Digital Classicist Wiki, which is, as you know, a reference resource for every classicist and digital classicist, students, scholars, researchers, etc., working on classics and digital classics. And today we have a session focusing on using the Digital Classicist Wiki. As usual, you have the class outline on GitHub, and where you have also links to various resources, to readings, and also an exercise. But before starting the session, I would like to introduce our guests today. And I'm very happy that today we have an Italian delegation, I can say that. And okay, of course, in our session today, we have Gabriel Bodard. I don't have to introduce Gabriel, you know him very well. He directs Sunoikis with me. But we have today Rosa Lorito and Paolo Monella. Paolo already contributed in the past to Sunoikis Digital Classics, but for Rosa, this is the first time. So Rosa, welcome to Sunoikis Digital Classics, and thank you for contributing to our program. Rosa is a teacher at the Liceo Classico in Castelvetrano in Sicily, a wonderful place. I recommend to visit it, really. And Paolo is a researcher at the University of Roma, La Sapienza. And they have been very active in the Digital Classicist Wiki, so they can show us today how to use the wiki, how to edit the wiki, and we invite people to join our community. You can do that. You can ask for an account on the wiki. And today you will see how to use the wiki, how to contribute to the wiki. But I think we can start. And as usual, for our audience on YouTube, please, you can ask questions, write comments in the chat. We are able to read your questions and we will answer your questions. But I think we can start, and Gabriel is the first to start. So Gabriel, I think you can start, and I can also share your screen.
Just in a moment. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, Monica. So yes, I'm going to very quickly give a bit of background, a bit of context. The main context of the content of this session is going to be, Paolo is going to tell us a little bit about the Digital Classicist Wiki itself and what it contains and how you use it, and then Rosa is going to show us how to edit the wiki, and then we'll have some discussion about that a little bit afterwards. But the sort of background, the context I want to give now is just very quickly to talk a bit about wikis in general and the MediaWiki software that we use. The reason this is relevant is because it is the same software that is used by Wikipedia, the wiki, right? The wiki that everybody has heard of, and one of the most important websites in the world. So I'll talk briefly about that, and I'm then also going to talk just very briefly about what is the Digital Classicist community who edit this wiki, and what sort of things do we intend to put in it and keep in it and edit. So you know a little bit about what, and I'm sure you all know a lot about what Wikipedia is. It's this massive collaboratively edited encyclopedia with over 6 million articles in it. I haven't checked the up-to-date results for how many articles there are. There was something like 6,300,000 several months ago. Who knows how many that is now? There are about 150,000 edits per day. 600 of those are new articles. But there are also many more than 300 other Wikipedias in different languages. The English one is the largest, but some of the others are also very large. One thing that's quite important to know about Wikipedia is that along with the rest of the Wikimedia ecosystem, it is really driven by, it rests on the backbone of a database called Wikidata, which is a linked open data database, which you'll be hearing more about in about 3 weeks' time. And this contains a lot of data about all of the articles, all of the entities that are represented in articles in Wikipedia, and many, many more things as well. But the other parts of the ecosystem which support Wikipedia include Wikimedia Commons, which has lots of images available, many free images, public domain images or open licensed images, which can then be used in Wikipedia pages. There are other images can be used in Wikipedia pages as well, but these are really the free ones that you can use anywhere you like. Wikisource, which has lots of open public domain texts, Wikiquote, and all the various other parts of the Wikimedia community. All of these Wikipedia is able to draw from and also link to give extra information about their content. Wikipedia and all of these other sites are, as I mentioned, they're free, they're open licensed, they contain reusable content. They also contain some content that they use under fair dealing or fair use, which are not therefore necessarily freely reusable for other people under different contexts, but all the things that are owned by the Wikipedia and Wikimedia community are free and reusable. And they're based on open source software, which means the software itself can be used by others. And so MediaWiki, the software that runs the wiki, and Wikibase, which is the database, the linked open data database that runs Wikidata. These are things that can be used by other projects for free, with a lot of power and a lot of support that come with them. So one of the things you'll know about Wikipedia, if you know nothing else about Wikipedia, the one thing you know is that it is unreliable and therefore you must never cite it. If you only had to know one thing, maybe that's not the worst thing you could know. I mean, it's not entirely true, but the fact that it's not 100% reliable is true. To say you wouldn't cite it is maybe only as true as to say you also wouldn't cite any other encyclopedia, including print encyclopedias, as if it were a secondary source. It's not. It's a tertiary source. It's a summary of secondary sources on a topic. But obviously it is flawed. Print encyclopedias are all flawed as well. Maybe not. They're not quite as hazardous. For the Wikipedia's biggest strength is also its weakness in this side, its fatal flaw, which is that anybody can edit it, and they do. As I've said, there are 150,000 edits a day. The vast majority of those edits are people improving pages. A small number of those edits are people inadvertently making pages worse by adding falsehoods, by adding unsourced statements that they think are true, that they've got from somewhere unreliable, they're not able to source properly. A tiny minority of those changes that are made to Wikipedia every day will be people deliberately vandalizing pages, either adding misinformation or disinformation for political reasons or for economic reasons or whatever, or just mischievously putting in nonsense just for fun, putting in their friend's name on a page of, about pop stars, just so they can show people and say, look, so and so's a famous pop star, or whatever sort of nonsense they might put in. The good news is that because there are hundreds of thousands of people editing Wikipedia, those sort of vandalism gets noticed very quickly, and very often will be fixed the same day, sometimes within minutes of it being put in there. Sometimes it takes longer, but very often it will be fixed very, very quickly. I just want to illustrate just how easy it is to make a change to Wikipedia. I'm not going to vandalize a page, and I'm not going to attempt to fix some vandalism, but I'm going to open the link that I've got on the slide there now, and if I can just find where I left that page. Right, so this is the page that I was talking about. I just happened to come across this page earlier because I think yesterday was the anniversary of her death. And I looked at her Wikipedia page, which is as it says down at the bottom here, it's a stub, which is to say it has a bare minimum of information, and they really want people to improve this page. And I'm not going to add lots of new information about Giselle Passinos because I don't know enough about her, although I'll talk about that in a moment. But what I am going to just do is I'm going to note that she died 7 years ago yesterday. The Wikipedia page says in the present tense, she is a writer. Okay, so I'm going to fix that by moving it into the past tense. It also says her brother is, in the present tense, a noted artist. I looked at his page, he also died. I forget when, but so I can put that in the past tense as well. And I might make one or two other tiny tweaks in here if I remember what they were. I saw two other things that I might tweak. So I'm logged in currently to Wikipedia. It has my username up here. If I wasn't logged in, then this button at the top right would say log in, and I could log in. You can also edit it without being logged in, but I don't recommend that. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to click edit. I'm going to say she was a French writer. This is the editing interface. Notice that it's not quite WYSIWYG. It's not what you see is what you get. It's not like typing in Microsoft Word. You have to have a little bit of markup included in here. So her name, which is in bold, has these triple quotation marks around it. Links have double square brackets around them and so forth. But otherwise, the text is text. So there where it said is, I changed that to was. We also see here her brother is. I'm going to change that to say her brother was. I'm going to move a full stop just because I'm pedantic like that. And I had thought of a full thing I could change, but I don't remember it anymore. So it doesn't matter. I've made some tiny changes. I'm just going to say, what were they? They were, oh yeah, moved to past tense. She died 7 years ago. And then I'll say published changes. And the page is now, I hope, better than it was when I found it. Okay, there's not very much. It's not very much better, but it's slightly more true. So that's all I wanted to do to that. The other thing I would just note very quickly is that if you wanted to improve this page further, and if it happens that you read French very well, you could look at the French version of this page, where in the French Wikipedia, there's lots more. There's a whole biography of her. And for that matter, in the, let's go back, in the Greek Wikipedia, there's also a lot more information about her, possibly not the same as in the French one. So if you read either of those languages, you could get some information from the other page, translate it into English, and put it back into this page. Change this rather scrappy, very, very short paragraphs up at the top with some slightly random information to a bit more information. That would be great. But even if all you do is improve tiny changes like the ones I did in here, you've already made Wikipedia a better place. So that's sort of what I wanted to say about Wikipedia, and that's just sort of the background. That's the macrocosm against which the Digital Classicist Wiki is a tiny example of that same sort of work. The second thing I want to talk about just quickly is the Digital Classicist community. So the wiki is part of a slightly bigger community of people who work in an area and identify themselves with this community that they call Digital Classicist, and we'll define exactly what that means, or we'll observe some comments about what that might mean. So a little bit of history about that first. The Digital Classicist community started with the creation of a website in 2005, which was hosted at King's College London, where I then worked, and with half a dozen of my colleagues. We put this together. There little earlier, there'd been a project, a couple of years earlier, a project called the Digital Medievalist had launched, and that is still going very strong. It's very different from the Digital Classicist. It's primarily a journal, and it has elected officers and so forth, neither of which I think is true of the Digital Classicist. But One of the first things that happened was that in 2006 we started running a seminar series. The first several of the seminars from that first series were published in a special issue of the Digital Medievalist Journal, linked on this slide. The seminars have continued every year, every summer, thereafter. If you go to that link there, digitalclass.org/WIP, which stands for Work in Progress, you'll see the programs of each summer's seminar since then. Many of them were also recorded for the last few years. They've all been on YouTube. There is also a mailing list which you can join through Gmail. There was what was originally the blog of the Digital Classicist is now the Stoa Review, so it's a slightly more formal than a blog. It has some sort of light peer review and aims to publish reviews and opinion pieces more than just blog content. And we don't tend to post holiday photos. And there is also, of course, the wiki, and that's what we're talking about today. The wiki, which you find at this link, it started out as being a catalogue of sorts of digital research relating to the ancient world. And I put ancient world in inverted commas because if most people who call themselves classicists, when they say ancient world, that's shorthand for ancient Greece and Rome, or at most they mean the ancient Mediterranean. We felt from the very early on that was not quite, not a very happy definition. And if we say this is relating to the ancient world, and we're not interested in the ancient Middle East or ancient China or ancient Mesoamerica or ancient sub-Saharan Africa, then we're not only excluding a lot of the world, we're also having a very colonial attitude and a very supremacist attitude to world history, and that was quite inadequate. On the other hand, those of us who founded the Digital Classicist, and the majority of people who work on it now, were classicists in the sense of studying the ancient Mediterranean, the texts and archaeology of the ancient Mediterranean, in particular the Greek and Roman dominated parts of the Mediterranean. So we didn't claim that this catalogue was ever going to be comprehensive with regard to the entire ancient world, and especially given that ancient means different things in different parts of the world, but that nothing relating to anything ancient, by which we mean significantly pre-modern, anywhere in the world, would be out of scope for this. So there is very little on sub-Saharan Africa, but if you brought along a project relating to that, then it would be welcomed in the wiki. The wiki also includes, as well as listings of projects, it includes listings of tools. It has a category FAQ, frequently asked questions, which we originally thought of as being a place where we could start to discuss methodological and other questions that might, over time, evolve into proper sort of white papers, almost recommendations for practice, and so forth, which could then be published as stable, if not static, publications, maybe through the Stoa Review or elsewhere. That hasn't really happened very often, but I think the FAQ category is still useful. Sometimes people will say, what are the questions around using Unicode for polytonic Greek? And those sort of things are worth discussing, even though it's not a specific project. And the community of the Digital Classicist Wiki is made up of administrators, a small number of us, which includes Paolo and Monica and myself and a couple of others. Editors, which is a very large number of people. There are people who participate as a sort of one-off through sprints, and we also run training like this online session, but also smaller sessions where we train people to edit the wiki, and we get people. I use it in my teaching with students, for example. And that was the end of what I wanted to talk about. Handing over to Paolo now, I think.
Yes, thank you, Gabby. What I will now show you specifically is a little bit of how the Digital Classicist wiki works. So first question is, why a wiki? Why did we choose to make it a wiki? Well, I did not, because I wasn't there back then. Gabby was. But when it was created, it was meant to be a hub for the ancient world. It could have been a website, a curated website, But there are two main reasons to me why this is a wiki and not a blog or a curated website or a journal. And all of them have to do with the idea of community. Digital Classicist, to me at least, is mostly a community of people who interact in different manners, working on university projects, curating the wiki, doing seminars, giving seminars, collaborating on a mailing list, etc. So the two ideas behind, so the practical application of this community idea is openness. First off, because a wiki is an open website. It can be edited by everyone in the community. This is also, so to speak, an ideal that is behind the way that many of us think of this endeavor. So a wiki is the property of everyone, is curated by everyone, is a collaborative challenge. And the second reason why this is a wiki and not a website is that things in the digital humanities change very quickly. I don't know if you happened to check one of those blogs or websites which plan to do a map of the world of the digital humanities. Very often they become outdated, because to me this is an endeavor that can only be carried when we have all hands on table. In other words, projects rise and fall constantly, very quickly. So having a wiki with many people editing it is a good way to make sure that the website, whatever that is, stays as up to date as possible. It is also true that there's this 80%, 20% rule. That is 80% of the content of collaborative endeavors, such as Wikipedia, is created by 20% of the users, engaged users. And whereas 20% of the content is created by the rest of the people, occasional editors. Now, the idea that this is a wiki and has to do with the community doesn't mean that there's a small group of people editing it. So everyone can ask for an account. I'm going into this, why we need an account, in a minute. You can ask for an account, you can edit it, even if this just means adding your own project. It happens that sometimes that someone gets an account for the wiki and only works on the couple of projects they're familiar with. This is perfectly okay. It's normal that a small group of engaged editors will edit most of the pages, will edit most of the massive content, so to speak, but corrections and also those additions of specific projects are often made by people who are involved with the project itself. So as I mentioned, you have to be registered to edit. In other words, you have to ask the administrators for an account to edit, as opposed to Wikipedia, in which I can create a login, create an account by myself, don't ask anyone. The reason is very simple. It's just practical. This is against vandalisms, against many sorts of attacks that can happen to a website like this. The community behind the Digital Classicist Wiki is not particularly large, so it's good that there's a little bit, filter. But the point is that everyone who applies and asks, who writes an email to Gabriel or the other administrators, including me, will get an account. So we encourage everyone to register and to start editing. How to use the DC Wiki from the point of view of the reader. First point, navigation. Simple search. The easiest way to search, our wiki is just like Wikipedia. You search for something like a project which is entitled Pages, and you find search results, and there's a, for example, right, that was a wrong choice. Venice VDPH, which is a research center. Okay, and you just check a page. There's not so much to say about this because we know how to do this. One thing I wanted to highlight, which is not particularly often used, a feature of wikis, which is not particularly often used, both in Wikipedia and in the DC, Digital Classicist Wiki, are categories. In fact, there is a special page here on the left, which is categories, all right, in which you see categories which are tags that are attributed to pages. For example, if I click on Ancient Sicily, these are the pages that have the category Ancient Sicily. Let's do it the other way around. Let's start from one of those articles. This is an article on this project, which also regards Ancient Sicily. It has a number of categories behind attached to the page. So those who edited this page added a number of categories. Projects, because this is a project. Geography, it has to do with geography. Arabic, and Ancient Sicily. If I click on that category, so I am in an article, right? regular wiki article. I go down, categories, I click on Ancient Sicily, and I see a list of articles, pages, which have Ancient Sicily as a category. This is a way to navigate the web of a wiki, which a wiki doesn't have an index. You can only search, for a page, if you know the title of the page, or you can follow those categories. Some category, if you click on categories on the left, you have a list of categories. So if you want to check, for example, something has to do with the Unicode, I search within the categories, and there are 54 pages that have to do with Unicode. And that's one interesting way to navigate the wiki. What is there in an article, in a page of the DC wiki? Let's check a couple of examples. I chose 3 examples. One regards a project pages in which I work in Rome. One regards the center, and another one regards tools. So let's check the first page. This is an article on a research project of Roma, La Sapienza. It's entitled Christian Ars Grammatica in European Scriptoria. That's the one I work in. What we typically find first is available. The Digital Classicist Wiki is many things. It's also an arena, it's also an agora to discuss issues. It's a place to collect resources, but it's also an ongoing list of projects, both legacy projects, now expired, or ongoing projects. So it's very important that articles have a URL section on top. So if I click on this website, for example, I can go to the project's website, and here it goes, and then I can make my own idea of it. And then there's always information about the people involved. In this case, it's entitled researchers, but that's not how we normally do this. In a while, we'll see how to edit this and correct this, and possibly write down, principal investigator or director or other terms. But there's some, discrepancy between the wording that we use for chapters in different pages. Again, because this is a collaborative initiative, so we're not very rigid on this. Anyway, this is the principal investigator of the project, and a link to the About Us page, which gives you the names of the other people involved. And then we have a description. In the best case scenario, we have a sort of abstract or description of the project, which is elaborated by the person who created the wiki page. It tells you what the project is about. And then we have an arbitrary number of other chapters, paragraphs, in this case, the technologies used, which are again not rigid and can vary from page to page. So this is a typical page of a project. To be more systematic, this is what a typical project page template looks like. Available, the URL, author, editor, director, the names, and the description. The description can be also a quote from the project's website, from the project own website describing itself. And then we have one or more categories. Here is another example, the VDPH page, VDPH article. VDPH is the Venice Center for Digital and Public Humanities. It's a digital humanities center which also works on digital classics. Again, we have websites. It should better be named available. This header should rather be available. So we have the homepage, etc. A short description, which also includes a quote from the website, and then in particular a paragraph which says which classical projects are involved, are carried by the VDPH, because this is the Digital Classicist Wiki. Then a third page, a sample page I wanted to show you, is the one about XML editors. XML editors, this is a page showing a list of tools that you can use to edit XML. So there's a list of open source editors. Ideally, links in this kind of links shouldn't link to the website of, in this case, EasyMax, but they should link to an internal article, to another article of Digital Classicist, which talks about the resource, which in its turn has a link to an external link to in this case, the GitHub repository of this software. So again, this is a page collecting tools. In fact, the category tags, basically the categories that are attached to this page, make it clear that this is a tools page that has to do with XML, open source, and FAQ, as Gabriel was mentioning earlier. So again, typically we have URL on top, the people involved, if relevant, if applicable, and then a description, preferably written by the editor of that article. We have legacy pages in the DC Wiki. Not only this is a mapping of the digital classics word today, but it also has some utility in terms of keeping track, of keeping memory, of keeping documentation about projects that have existed in the past, but possibly are dead today. One quick way to find all of those pages is to check the pages which have category legacy. How can you do this? You go to categories on the left. They're displayed in alphabetical order. You go to L, legacy. And there are 72 pages in the legacy category. So all of these pages have been marked by the DC Wiki editors as pages which refer to projects, resources, tools, initiatives that are legacy, no longer existing or something like that. For example, the Parma Digital Medical Library. I'm just checking one. Well, here is a good example. Available, so URL, directors, people involved. Description is just a long quote from the website. This is also accepted. If you create a first draft of a page, the easiest way to do this is just to copy paste what's in the web page. All right, I put three examples.
Can I interject very quickly, Paolo? Just a comment. On this topic in particular, some people might be displeased to find their project listed as legacy. There may be an issue with they don't think of their project as legacy. Are we making a judgment? Are we saying this project is dead? Whether they're saying actually it's not dead, it's just it was finished 10 years ago, but it's still a good project and the website is still good. So the sort of observation I want to make is that an editor might have decided to call this legacy either because it's gone, as you say, that the link is now dead, or just because it is no longer an active project. And that judgment may differ based on the editor, and it may include mistakes. It may be wrong. As with anything else, if you find a mistake, the best way to fix it is to go in and edit it yourself, or at the very least to write to the community and ask very, very, very nicely if anyone will be willing to update that, or at least explain why something says legacy. As with Wikipedia, you shouldn't use the Digital Classicist as a definitive source that tells you whether or not a project is any good or not, right? Or whether a project is still alive or not, whether a project, whether the scholars who worked on a project should be respected for their work on that project or not. Okay, nothing in the Digital Classicist Wiki is considered judgment of that kind. And because this is the work of all sorts of people and volunteers, people who work in their spare time, no one working on this could be considered liable for any decisions you make or any actions you take based on misrepresentations you may find in the wiki. This is quite important, given that you were just talking about legacy things where this sort of misunderstanding could happen. If you follow the link from a page, you will find the original site, which is where you will find information that you can trust. The information in the wiki is really just to help you find those things. Sorry, that was my intervention.
Thank you very much. That, by the way, raises an important issue, if I may mention this very briefly, which is the issue of sustainability and the long life or short life of digital humanities project. This is really interesting to me. When we create a book, at some point we stop implementing the book. We stop creating the book. The book is there. It should sit on a library shelf for decades, right? And also, digital humanities projects have a start and have an end, like everything in life. The problem is how to support them in the decades to come, in the years to come. That's a huge problem. problem. Anyway, as Gabby rightly pointed out, legacy doesn't mean expired, outdated, old, or dead. It just means that it's finished. I put here 3 examples of why 3 different projects have been tagged, categorized as a legacy. One is an expired project, the Onomasticon. This is a very good project by William McCarthy, which really, set an example for us all. However, it's old, so it's still working, but it's no longer updated, so to speak. And that's one reason why you can your project can be tagged as legacy. Another one is, it refers to a past initiative, Ancient Studies, New Technologies. All right, there is no link here. It was a series of biennial conferences. So it's something that has happened in the past. And again, there is a testimony of this. Some evidence of this remains online, even after the websites possibly died. And this is the third one, Archaeological Computing Newsletter, is a project which is still ongoing. However, it has some dead links. And that's probably why it was. That's probably why it was marked as a legacy project. Okay, so I will finish my part of the talk with a couple of slides on 2 important tools for collaboration. I again want to highlight that this is a wiki, which is the technological counterpart of a community. So collaboration within the community is very important, and the wiki technology gives us tools to implement that collaboration, to discuss issues within that community. So one tool is the talk pages that also exist on Wikipedia. All articles can have or not have a talk or discussion page. This page, for example, doesn't have a discussion page. That's why the link is red. So if I click on discussion, it will tell me there's currently no text in this page. Now, some other pages have a talk section. You can, if you want to know what pages have a talk section or discussion session populated, you can click on those slides in this link. Anyway, I'm showing you 2 examples. One is this page, which is a page that has been deleted, but its discussion has been used before its deletion to propose whether we should delete that page. The original page was how to install WinGreek under WordPerfect 5.0. This is a very old question. Hardly anyone, I guess, uses this software. I'm not sure if this still exists. So Gabriel Bodard asked in the discussion page about that now gone page, he asked, does anybody care? Serious question. Should we delete it? And taking votes. And I, Paolo Monella, voted for deletion. Eli Milonas voted for deletion. So the page is deleted. In fact, it's a red link. It means that there is currently no text on this page. So the discussion is important to discuss what do we want to do of that page, including deleting it. The second example I'm showing you is the Fasti Online page. Okay, so this is the page. The page is still online. It mentions 3 major components. So it mentions a project, a large website, which is made of 3 different parts. Each one of these is very important. Excavation, conservation, folder. The discussion page, in the discussion page, Gabriel Bodard asked, should we consider creating pages for the 3 individual components? So this is a discussion that happens within the community. It's very useful to keep keeping track of what we are all doing. Gabby is asking someone else whether someone else wants to split this page and create the different pages. Someone else will reply saying, yes, I'll do that. And since none of us can keep track of all this collaborative complex work, we use the discussion pages to collaborate with each other. The second tool that the Wikimedia software provides to collaborate is history. Every page has a history, view history tab on top. The example I wanted to show you is Ovid's Onomasticon again. Now, Ovid's Onomasticon is the legacy website of William McCarthy that I just showed you earlier. The history page of this project shows you who changed what. So Gabriel Bodard did most of the work, but then Joel Calvesmaki did some of the work. If I want to know what Joel Calvesmaki added to the previous version on the 27th of June of 2012, I can compare to different versions, compare selected revisions, so I can see that he added editors Willard McCarty. This is important because the community wants to, check and vet the edits of other editors. So I can check what other people have added or deleted, what they have edited, and possibly check if it's right or wrong, and revert changes, etc., etc. This is all I had to say about the matter. I hand it over to Rosita for the practical example and explanation of how you actually edit those pages.
Okay, thank you so much, Paolo, and thank you, Gabi and Gabriel Bodard and Monica Berti, to involve me in this session. I want to show you how to edit a wiki page, and I want to be very clear with you, because you don't need to be an expert in Wikipedia markups, markup language, or in digital humanities to be an editor in the Digital Classicist Wiki. But if you follow the instructions you find in the site, you can edit very quickly and simply a page about a project you are involved in, or you like, or you think it's worth to be in this project, in this wiki. Okay. First of all, what do you need to be an editor? You need an account. And so you have to ask the administrators that you find in the first page of the Wikipedia, of our wiki, and members. You found it? No. Administrators? Yes. Here you are. Okay, the administrators. And so that you can ask them to provide an account for you. Okay, let's start. After you have an account, you have to decide what to talk about, or what project or what project do you think that can enter the group of the pages of the articles of the wiki, the Digital Classicist Wiki? Well, there are actually, we have a list that improve and update every time we see a project that we think it could be useful to enter the Digital Classicist Wiki. But if you are, as Paolo said before, if you are the responsible of a project, if you know a project you think it could be useful to insert in this wiki, or if you like a project and you want to dedicate a page to it, you can decide to write about it if you want. You are not obliged to or forced to write about the pages we added in the list we have. But when you decide you choose the site, the project you want to talk about, and I advise you to watch and to read the site of the project. For me, for this session, I chose the Pompeii Artistic Landscape Project, PALP, PALP. that I found very interesting because it has a lot of features that could be very interesting to show to write an article. Okay, in this project we have a good home page in which there is a summary of the nature of the project directors, and the collaborators of this project, and the student team. But also we have a blog session. Okay, a blog session that we can, okay, this one. And a mission and scope of this project here, that goes deeply in the mission of the project. Links or linked open data, and this part here, and browse data. But actually, this project is still under construction, so we have to specify it in our article, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so we chose our page, our project, but we don't know if the wiki has it or not. And so we'll check it. Okay. And we'll check it like this. Sorry. Okay, where is the home page? Okay. We have the home page, the main page of the Digital Classicist Wiki. So we have to log in. Log in with username and password. Okay. And then, in this case, we, as we can see, I'm logged in, and we can search with the name of the we can insert the name of the project. In this case, the Pompei Artistic Landscape Project. We start writing. Pompei Artistic Landscape Project. Okay, as you can see, we can search about this page, and we don't have any result about it.
Rosa, could you make the text a little bit larger, please?
The text larger? Okay.
Yes,
how can with this one? Zoom? Is it better for you?
That would be great. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So the Pompei Artistic Landscape Project. You can put PLP here. Search it again. Okay, we don't have this page, so the wiki asks you to create it. Okay, and so now we click on it, and we start editing the page. Actually, this will be the the title of the article. So I advise you to. It's more simple if you give the final, the definitive title to the article from the beginning, so that you can't, you don't have to move it to other pages and so on. Okay, but how we can edit a page? As Paolo said before, we have a sort of scheme, and this scheme is this one available. So the URL in which we can find the site of the project, other editor, but in this case I prefer to use the caption they use to okay, the name they gave themselves to the responsibles of the project, so project directors in this case. Cioè you are not obliged to follow this kind of words, the same words they used in the example, in the sample here. But so you can talk about insert the author, the editor, the directors of the project directors, the research team, whatever you need, you think it would be useful. But what are the rules that we have to follow to create a page, a wiki page? We can follow the rules, the indication you find in these pages about formatting that you find always in this page. Okay, standard conventional formatting, for example, and you find how you can format the text in italic, bold and italic. I advise you to have always this page in the background when you edit something. Okay, and all this stuff. You can insert the links, links to external page, internal page, or sites if you want, following this kind of markups. Always here you find all this stuff here, always in the wiki editing page. So let's begin. Okay, available for the first. In this case, we can put creating property echo. So we can put available here. We can put this one, and we can insert the link of the home page of the site. This one. Okay. And this is the first step. Second step, we can always following this scheme. We can put this here and say not author editor, but project directors. Actually, there is a lot of names. There are a lot of names here, but we can see them clicking on the link we provided at the beginning. So I prefer to nominate to quote the project directors for the moment. Okay, so project directors here. And we insert the names of the project directors. Just a moment. That are, in this case, Eric Poehler, here, and Sebastian. Okay, here we are. Okay, so the first step is gone. Now there is the part of the description. As Paolo said before, we have two chances. We have two ways to describe the project. We can, for example, quote a part of the description, general description of the site, but by specifying the date, the exact date in which we entered the site and read the information we are gonna put in the page of the wiki in this form. Block quote, and here we have the text. We'll insert the text, and in this block quote in this form here at the end of the quotation of the text. For example, in our case, I prepared it before yesterday, for example, and I copied the text we have in the main page. Sorry. Okay. Here I am. Okay. So this is taken from the project website that I visited yesterday, in the date of yesterday, the 15th of November. And I just quoted this one, this part, this general part, as we can see. Well, I quoted it, and why this part? Because usually the most important information that are of the description of a project are shown in the home page or in the about page. Sometimes when I edit the pages, I have a mix. I make a mix between the on-page informations or the about page information, the about session information. But in this case, I found this part very interesting and appropriate to edit the page, so I used it. But as Paolo said before, we can also review in our own words the context of the project. In this case, I did like this. I had a little, I made a little summary, a very short summary of the part we talked about before. Okay, I can put it here, or alternative, but you have to choose if you want to quote it or to summarize the contents of the page. Okay, and this one is the second, the description in my own words. But we have to precise two things. First of all, I think it's better, we think, as Paolo said before, that it's better to review the contents of the pages or the aims of the purposes of the project in our own words. But at the same time, we have to we have to give general information that are valid whenever people will read it. So in this case, I wanted to specify that the page is still under construction, but I can't use words like now, because people that will read it in the next 2 years, for example, and maybe the project will be concluded or will be finished in 2 years, will find a very wrong information. So it's better not to use words that refers to the day in which we edit the article, but I prefer to use still under construction. No, in this case, I corrected it, and I can correct it still in this way, still under construction in November 2022, so that we can register that this is not finished as a site, as a resource. But at the same time, we can also give it information that are not wrong for the future, for example. So we have the description, we made the description after available project directors. We add the description, we can choose between the two options, and then we have the part of the categories. So the categories are very important, and we have to insert them in this form. And we can find the categories that are available in the page that Paolo made us see before. So we have a long list of projects to which we can refer when we create a page, okay, and so on in the session categories. Okay, in this case, I think that we can use the category projects because it's a project. So we copy and paste it, okay, here. So project. But at the same time, as we can see, reading the main page of the project, we can see that it's a project about archaeology. It's a project that uses linked open data, for example. And so yesterday, when I made my copy of the categories, I decided to choose these ones. Okay, so projects, and then I put the category architecture because it's about architecture. For example, category linked to open data and category open source. Pay attention in writing the category in the same form you find it, because otherwise you will have a red link. Okay, we just finished the principal parts of the article. We have all the parts of the article, of a basic article of the wiki. And then we can we choose no. In this case, I as an example, I leave both the options, but in a second moment I will cancel one of them. So we can, before we save the page, and because before making it public and sharing it with all the public, I think it's better to show the preview of this page. Using the markups that the markup language we used in editing this page, we can see the final result, in which we have the link of the site, the directors here with the points, the names introduced by the points, the description with the text, with the quotation of the text is in this form. Or if we prefer to use the summary version, we have this form here, not in the form of quotation, of course. And then at the end we have the categories that I can find here. Wait. Okay, the categories that we can find in blue, so that they are active. Okay, I'll cancel this one, this description. Okay, because I don't want this kind of description, I want the summary. So I correct it. Okay. I think it's perfect. Okay, I think there is not error in what I have written. And so I can save the page. In this case, why there is a spam filter? I don't know. I don't know what's important. What's happening?
I don't know either. That's weird.
That's weird. But yesterday worked. So just a moment. Okay. Okay. Just okay. Save page. It's quite bizarre because yesterday it worked. I don't know why. I don't know what's happened. However, we can save the page, and if we can save the page, we can find it. For example, if we write from page. No, it's not saved anymore. However, when you
the problem it's having is with the URL. It doesn't like that URL umasscreate.net. It thinks that's spam for some reason.
Sorry?
It doesn't like the URL. It's complaining. It thinks the URL is a spam URL, which is a problem, and I don't know what to do about it. But maybe for the moment, if you delete the URL.
Okay. The URL.
Yeah, just say to be added there, and then we'll figure out how to fix it later.
Okay. Maybe I can use it. Just a moment, because yesterday it was available. Just a moment. I can. Maybe if I try this in this case. Okay. Okay. Let's see if it works. Okay, save page. No, it's always the same. However, when you, in general, when you save the page, it will be always available if there is not a problem like this.
Do you want to just delete the URL and instead of HTTPS, etc., just write to be added? And then we'll fix it later, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's to be added. Okay, and so we'll save the page. Okay, and this is the page. The problem was the link. Okay, the URL. And this is the page that is in this moment. If you search it, you can find it. It's like really immediate, the thing. And you can see that the page is here, despite the link. Okay. And so that's it. It's very simple, and I think that nobody would find it difficult, and that it's very easy. And if you want something, if you want to ask something, if you have some doubts, you can ask us. If for example, it was not that clear, and you are free to ask whatever you want. Okay, so thank you again, and then.
Okay, thank you, Rosa, and I think that Paolo now has a demo. So if I'm correct, so to see how to edit pages.
Yes, I mean, Rosa showed perfectly how to do things. Now I am now going to show how to make smaller edits to existing pages, so nobody gets scared in terms of it's really hard to contribute that wiki. Suddenly created a new page from the technical point of view may seem harder than making smaller edits to existing pages, but all sorts of contributions are needed, especially small edits that correct errors and update information. So here's a...
Sorry, there is a comment about that in the chat. Greta says, okay, I always been afraid to edit anything in case I break the entire wiki. This is not...
Don't worry, if I don't break the wiki, you won't break the wiki too. So, and as you can see, it's easy to fit the errors, and there is always a solution. Don't worry about it, and you have you will have a team that will help you and encourage you without making you feel inadequate. So don't worry, and if you want to contact Paolo and Gabriel and join us. Okay, and thank you for the compliment. Okay.
Okay, Paolo.
That's right. I mean, yes, the feeling I've always had when we sometimes edit collaboratively is that, I mean, even if someone is awkwardly unable to do things, like I was at the beginning, especially, you know, the rest of the people are very welcoming and help you a lot. So I'm showing you a very simple kind of edit one can make. This is the webpage, the wiki article that I showed you before, the Venice Center for Digital and Public Humanities. While we were scrolling it, we saw that there are a couple of things that can be fixed. For example, we shouldn't have websites here, but available. So I logged in already. I click on edit. I can either edit the whole page from this link above here. In this case, I have the whole page in front of me. Or I can click here, edit, so I edit only the specific paragraph. I delete websites and write available. A good practice is that you write something in the summary section. So I write like, you know, adapt header to conventions. So in this case, the summary is longer than the edit that I made. You can hit show preview. So you see, you know, if you're worried about, you know, damaging things, that's the way it's going to look like. So it's okay. I go save changes. All right. Remember, if you're afraid that you can break something, this is no problem, because if you hit on history, you see that my edit is over here. So everyone can go back and compare my edit with the previous version and see what I did. If this edit was really wrong, everyone who's registered in the wiki can click undo and change my edit. I will do that. I don't know if this is going to do any harm. Okay, undo change. And so here we are. We're back to a situation. The page is back to websites. So I undo the revision, save changes. Here we go. The page is back the way it was. So nothing has happened. But I will do this again. I will hit edit, available, adapt header to conventions for, you know, for wiki pages. Totally unnecessary, unnecessarily long, save changes. And here we go, available. Other edits I could easily make is adding a director. So there's no, the center does have a director and find one, and it's not there. Since I'm adding a new paragraph, then I cannot add, you know, edit one of the existing paragraphs. I have to edit the whole page over here. Edit. All right. And after available, in the section about people, I will write director. The equal syntax means header type 2. And the asterisk means bullet point. And I know in person, so I know the name. I don't have to do any research. It's Franz Fischer. This is something we can all do on the projects that we know directly. Like, you know the center, you know it for sure that Franz Fischer is the director. The summary is add director. You go ahead and just edit it. Add director. I show you a secret that there is a way for administrators to see the last changes. So there are people who are willing, people of goodwill who go and check the last edits to see, there's something that hasn't happened. So there's really not too much responsibility in editing the wiki. And then we can do other minor changes. There's a typo, Dipartimento di of Ca' Foscari. Okay, let's check it out. Here we go. Dipartimento di of, so it's hard, it's part English, part Italian. I have to delete of. Dipartimento. All right, it's all English, so I delete D. When you do a minor change, such as this, correct typo, so the summary is correct typo, you can also hit, this is a minor edit, save changes. Let's see what happened in the chronology. I'm sorry, in Italian it's chronology. As I said, chronology, it's history, in the history section. My name shows up as the author of the last changes. One has been made at, 1713, 1714, 1715. Check this out. In parentheses, you see the subject of my edit, the summary of my edit. Correct typo, add director, adapt header to conventions, undo revision. Okay. So everything stays registered, but no one checks old versions of pages because there's already too much stuff to check. Everything stays there, right? And that's scary. But at the same time, everything can be reversed. Like, for example, if everything that I did was garbage, and the only meaningful version of this page was that of 2020, I can check this page. I can look this version, the old version, before all the things that I just did in front of your eyes, and I can restore the page, revert the page to that version. So nothing that you do is forever. Yes, it stays forever in the history of the page, but it can be reversed at any time. One interesting thing that one can do is adding categories. So, for example, I was the one who edited this page, like you can see from the history page. It's always Paolo, Monella. So I take responsibility for having done a poor work because I forgot to add categories. There are no categories in the bottom of the page. Now, since the internet in general and the wiki and any large website is a lot of information, the key point, the key issue is to find your way through the information. Categories are really important. So what categories could one add to this wiki? Imagine you're editing this wiki with the help of someone who's in the chat, like me or Gabriel or Rosa or Monica, and we're helping you out, but you are editing this. You don't know what categories you should add. You don't know what the categories are. I myself don't remember all the categories by heart at all. So you go to the categories. I'm opening the categories list on a different tab. This is a center, right? What am I? This is an institution. So I scroll it and see if there's a centers tab, a centers category, but there's none. So I keep scrolling. Well, that takes a little bit at the beginning to find the right ones. And I find that there is an institutions category. Is this the right one? Let's check. 35 pages belong to this category. Yes, associations, digital labs. All right, that's the one I'm looking for. What do I do? It's in the slide. I add institutions. Since the name of the category is institutions, I add this syntax over here at the bottom of the page. Let's do it. Edit the whole page, go down to the bottom of the page and write category institutions. Okay, I'm never sure about the syntax. I don't learn these things by heart. Let me check if it's right. Category institutions. All right, if you don't remember the syntax, there's an easy way to do this. Is a trick I do. I check another page which has the categories on bottom, edit, and I just, check what's the correct syntax. Yes, twice squares, square the parentheses, and comma. All right, good. Category institutions. The summary of my edit is add category. There's another category that would be interesting, which is public engagement, because it's the Center for Digital and Public Humanities. So again, copy, paste, and the category name is public. Engagement. Add categories. I added 2. Save changes. And here we go. The categories are there. Another way, and I will finish with this, another slightly more complex way to improve a page, like Rosa showed us, is to look for information in the original website of the project or elsewhere, obviously. Like, for example, this is the homepage of the VDPH, the Venice Center for Digital and Public Humanities. In the research section, there are research projects. In this article, I mentioned a couple of projects that specifically of the center that specifically regard the classical word, Musisco de Oque, Catullus Online. But there is at least another project that should really be mentioned, I guess. Fellowship projects. Cadmus is a general, well, it's a software to create digital humanities, to model and create digital humanities complex data in research projects. So I copy and paste and edit classical projects. So this is information that comes from a source. So I'm mentioning Musisco de Oque, the Cadmus software is produced by Daniele Fus, is developed. Again, like you can see from my accent, I'm no native speaker of English, but then again, the linguistic form of this can be reviewed by other editors who are native speakers. It really developed, if you see. Right at the center. All right.
Paolo, do you want to put square brackets around Cadmus?
Does it already have a web page, a page in our?
If it doesn't, then putting double square brackets around it will turn this into a request to create such a page.
Yeah. Let's see how this works. If you put the name of something in double square brackets, it becomes an internal link which points to the article of the wiki, of our wiki, which has Cadmus as title. Okay. Does this page exist? No, it doesn't exist. So I am mentioned Cadmus. So I'm creating a link to a page which doesn't exist. Let's see how this will look. Save changes. Here we go. The link is there. It links to the page Cadmus, but Cadmus doesn't exist. This is an invitation, like Gabby said, a request. This is an invitation to someone else to create a page on Cadmus. Someone else in the future. Again, this is a collaborative endeavor. So we're not thinking in terms of I do things. It's in terms of I put a brick and we all together build a wall. So the brick I put must be put in such a way that someone else can build upon the brick, right? So if someone checks this page and sees that there is a red link, meaning that it links to something that should be there, but it's not there, they can click on the link and they will automatically create the page. I'm not doing it right now. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Paolo, could you keep the wiki open a second with the commit, but the submit button? So just edit. Yeah, just scroll down to the bottom. You don't have to make any changes. You don't have to actually put anything. Just so we see the thing. Actually, yeah. So I just want to say, because we've had a question which is from Greta, which is what's the difference between minor edit and watch this page? So on the page, so it's not quite the same on this.
Well, I got it. Yeah. Minute.
So when you save a page, you have the option to make it a minor edit, which is to say I've changed something that's only cosmetic, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm adding new content here. I've just fixed a typo, or I've just changed some square brackets or something like that. And the other option is watch this page, which is a different option, which means that if that is ticked, it means that because you have edited this page, you're telling the wiki that you're interested in it, and that anyone who edits it in the future, you will get a notification of the fact that they do so. In theory, that notification could be an email, but that would be a bit messy. If every single page you'd edited, you got an email about every time anyone else edited it. You can turn that on, but I think by default it's just an alert that you can look at in the alerts section of the site. But that's usually ticked by default, and it normally has no. So I think it probably comes under watch list, under your watch list, Paolo. So everything you've edited is in your, yeah. So this is everything that you've edited, or everything that you've deliberately chosen to watch on there. This is a list of all the things that have changed in pages that you're watching. So it's not particularly intrusive, but if you really wanted to see what's happened to the pages I care about, you can go to this page and have a look at that. So that's the answer to Greta's question there. Yeah.
Yes, so thank you for your presentations, because now we really have a session about using the wiki, which is really important, because we have many people asking to add contents. I get emails from people, well, my project is not there, please add my project or another project. And of course, we are very happy to do that, but remember that you can participate in this effort, and given, especially for people responsible for projects, you are able to describe your project. We can do that, of course, the community can do that. And I think that we can open the discussion with this. At the beginning, Gabby, you mentioned we don't have judgments. Of course, this wiki is not Wikipedia in the sense that Wikipedia is an encyclopedia where we have entries about many, many topics, but also in Wikipedia we have the neutral component. So, and this is a big discussion about Wikipedia entries. We don't know what to discuss about that now. Of course, this wiki is to inform our community about projects that are currently active or dead or inactive and so on. But of course, again, it's not just a copy and paste. That's the thing. And this is probably important also for our students. This is an excellent exercise to add resources in the wiki, because you really know to understand the resource you're going to describe when you have to summarize the content. So of course you can copy and paste parts of a web page, but technically the idea is to summarize the main characteristics. And I think this is the most interesting thing for every one of us. I have to admit then, when I want to edit something in the wiki, I want to add a resource. This is the time-consuming part, because of course I have to reflect on a resource. I have to try to find the good words to represent a certain resource. Not to speak of categories and possibly tags, which is a difficult part, because of course we can add as many categories as we want, but still we should try in some way to be consistent within this wiki. And I think these are very important aspects, of course, for contributing to the wiki. But we have a lot of flexibility, as we can see. And also the history part, the version in history, I think this is very, very important, because, again, in some way you are credited, which is another critical part. Okay, why do we have to contribute to the wiki? My name is not there. Yes, it is. You are responsible. Everything is written. So this is, I think, an important part, especially for students who want to begin to learn about the digital resources and how to contribute to the community. So I think that these three things are really important. And again, another thing that we can see also below the minor edit and watch this page part, but in general in the wiki, is the CC license. So the wiki has a CC license, a CC BY license. So of course, if you use the wiki, you have to attribute the work to the wiki, and you can't add copyright materials, but this is a part of your responsibility. I see that we have another question in our chat. So about, is my yes. And can one add a category? Yes, definitely. So we have seen that you can do that. Of course, that's the thing. You should consult the list.
Well, so effectively, you can put anything in that string in the second half of the category tag. So 2 square brackets, category colon, and then anything, 2 square brackets. Even if that's not something that anyone has used before, it will turn up as a red link, but that doesn't mean it's a bad category. It just means that no one's created a page describing that category yet. It will still appear as a category page. So it might be that you tag 20 pages with a new category, but if you haven't created a page describing that category, there'll be red links, but you'll still have a page listing the items in that category. And it will still be a useful list for people to use. So there may be some categories in our list that are red already, but that's fine. So yes, you can invent a new category just by putting whatever text you like in the tag.
As showing before, try to look at the categories already available. For example, you wanted to add a center for Venice, but then he said, okay, we already have a category institution, so maybe we can use that instead of creating new one. Technically, you can do that, of course, but this is a problem about categories. It is like with the tags, so we want to avoid to create a huge amount of categories, but still you can do that. Of course, is your responsibility. I mean,
this is also something that the editors will worry about, is consistency. So it might be that we have 34 centers, 34 institutions, 4 centers, and 3 departments or universities or something like that exist in there, and we'll look at it and we'll say maybe those should all be institutions. And so someone will come along afterwards and do it. But it's still great that you put it in there. It's better that you put in the tag center, even if you're not sure if that's the right tag, that can then be cleaned up later. So, editors have to worry about consistency. When you're creating a new article in there, don't worry about consistency. I mean, you can put in stuff, you can use different headings, you can use different categories, different tags, and absolutely, you don't have to learn the full library metadata schema of what categories we use before you can use categories. Just put in whatever categories you think are useful, and then someone else will tidy it up later. It's all incremental, as Paolo said. You're putting a couple of bricks in there that's really essential that other people can use to build the wall.
Yes, exactly. No, exactly. You don't have to learn something. Of course, so this is just an effort to see what is there. And then speaking of libraries and librarians, well, yes, librarians are all into categories and classification. Definitely, we would like to have more contributions from librarians because they know how to classify resources. So yes, so thank you.
Well, we do now have two very experienced classics librarians on our editorial board, so we're quite pleased. That I think will help our categorization in the future.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, so
one of whom I should say is Greta. No.
Yep. I think another interesting thing is about legacy. Of course, we can open a big discussion. We could devote an entire session of Sunoikisis about legacy in this case. Something that occurred to me was that, of course, there are projects not active anymore, web pages not available anymore. Maybe we should point also to the Wayback Machine of Internet Archive, where we have the possibility to visualize all the pages. So if you go to Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine, and maybe I can try to show. Let's see. Give me a second. Now I have a problem. I don't know why, but maybe I can find a tab. Okay, no, it works. Good. I have the tab, so I hope you can see that. So just to give you a sense, I hope you can see that. For example, if I the Perseus Digital Library is active as a project still, but if you go to Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine, for example, if you look for a project like this, you can find old pages, okay, given that the project was born many years ago. This is just a simple example for looking for web pages not available anymore. But this is, of course, an extra effort, but just to mention these aspects. Of course, yeah, there are many situations.
We have used that on a few occasions. There's in particular if a project's URL has died, it no longer exists, and in particular, the examples I'm thinking of, and I can't find the example right now, but maybe it's best I don't find it, where the URL they used to have has expired and someone else has bought it, and it is now a spam site, or some other offensive content. So we don't want to link to the old site and say this is where it used to be. So instead we say where it used to be is now squatted by a spam site. Here is the Internet Archive's copy of it, if there is one. And that sort of thing, I think, is yes, that's very useful, because people can then at least see something, even if it's not the most recent version of the site. The site may have been perfectly good up until 2012, but the Internet Archive, we've only got the 2009 version. But still, it's something, yeah, and that is really useful.
And this is good also to mention resources like, I remember a search engine, Argos. I'm old enough to remember that, and I miss that resource. I was a very young student using that, so I would like to, we could remember this in the week. We already have an archaeology of digital classicist resources, and this is just another example, of course.
Like I mentioned earlier, the reason why I believe in the DC Wiki and I try to work on that is that I myself had created originally a website in which I created, a list of useful resources for classics. And part of that was corpora of Latin and Greek texts. But then I gave up. I mean, it's still online. But then I realized that there's no human. If you will show my screen, I gave it up really mostly and started working on this wiki page, Greek and Latin text in digital form. There's no individual human who can keep up with that. Because there are, there's the TLG, the PHI5, etc. However, if you check the history page, I have worked a lot on this page, but there are other people who, and Monella here, there's Joel, Calvas, Mike, and many others who have worked on that. And this has to do with another factor. I think that the digital humanities today not only have way too much material for one person to cover, but they are interlinked with the community. First off, we have this preposterous idea that everything should be a project. So it should expire at some point. I think that that's not the way you do humanistic research, but that's another point. But then again, since this is the case, what happens is that our work is proteform. It mutates, it changes. An archive gets imported into a larger archive. A project changes name. The people involved in that project work in another project and bring the data with them. The original website is dead, but then it's included in another one. So this is an ever-changing word because it's carried about by a community of humans being funded, losing funds, moving to another university. The only way that this can be somehow tracked and monitored, mapped, is by a community, because there's only one person in this world who knows. Like, I have worked on the ALIM project, Archive of Medieval Latin Texts. I know what's happened to the project. Some of this is official, some of this is not official, because the funding expired, so we're trying to make it survive. I know how this works, and there's only me and a couple of other people who know. So it's only me and a couple of other people who can edit that page. who can participate in the community, even to do this one edit, which is not in any official gazetteer or mailing list. So this applies to the digital humanities burgeoning, ever burgeoning word. And I think really the wiki, not only ideologically it's good because it's open, but it's also more functional. That any project, it could be funded with millions of euros to do this, but then it will probably fail.
One thing I would like to see more of in the wiki, and I've tried to do this a little bit in the past, is a really concerted effort to look at those really older legacy projects, digital classics projects from the 1960s and 70s that no longer exist. Or even if they did still exist, they're a CD-ROM in the back of a book somewhere that doesn't work on computers now. Or even if it does work now, so, but those projects are really useful for historical purposes. This is not something that we can put a URL for. The director of the project that we can quote for that is, that we can list on that site is almost certainly dead. Not necessarily, but very often. But it's really, really historically important. And in the way that some of the projects that we listed 15, 16 years ago when we created this site no longer exist. And it's now really good that we listed them because no one else remembers them. Getting that memory of those 1960s projects before that's lost and recording as much as we can of that. And it's a research project to find that information in the first place. What was the original, there was the repository of digital Greek and Latin texts or something that was before the TLG that the APA maintained. There's a bit of description that in Ted Brunner's article about the founding of the TLG, but finding out more about that information and having a bit of a description of that's really useful information. That's not in a library catalog. Most projects should be in library catalogs, but some of those things aren't going to be because there's nothing to point to anymore. So I'd really like to see some more research on some of those 1960s projects included in even if it's just naming the project. We know this project existed, it was at this university, there's a citation to it, we can point to Brunner's article, and gradually that can get filled in. I think that would be a really, really exciting project to do, to populate some of those pages.
Yes, exactly, because we need this memory. And also, in general, as Paolo was saying, so this is, of course, frustrating to have these broken links. But digital resources, they have to be dynamic. We need that. I know that we want them to be stable, but this is where we can be creative, where we can get new ideas. So this is, I think, an essential component. Of course, we're working very hard to produce stable identifiers, stable projects. There are many, many discussions about sustainability. But still, the dynamic component is essential, and the wiki is contributing to that. Keep memory of projects dead for various reasons, but still present because the contribution was and still is important, including the projects you have just mentioned, Gabriel. So yes, definitely. So this is one of the main goals of this community. Okay, I don't know if there are other questions. We're a bit late because usually we finish at 6:45 p.m. But anyway, so the discussion is very interesting, and technically with our sessions we can go on for many hours, but we can't. So, and also because probably our guests have something else to do. So I'm sorry, we are late, it's my fault, but still the discussion was very interesting. So unfortunately, I think we have to finish now, and next week on Tuesday. So remember that we have a different day next week, which is Tuesday, November 22. We have a session about contributing to ancient linguistic annotation projects with Francesca Dell'Oro and Francesco Mambrini. Again, the class outline is in GitHub, and you also have information about, you have the link for YouTube. So, but now, so thank you, Rosa and Paolo. It was great. We now have a session about the Digital Classicist Wiki, which is, yes, good for our community. So really, thank you very much. We will ask your slides also for our for our GitHub wiki. And okay, so I wish you a good night, and thank you also to our audience for your questions and for the discussion. And so we will see again next week on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central European Time. That's correct, yes. So 4 p.m. London time. Okay, so thank you and see you next week. Bye. Good night.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you very much.